Make some noise for your host, Kid Copious.
What up, perps? Kid Copious. Back in the bunker. Purple State Party. You know what we're repping here, man. America. The center. Common sense. Party streamers. An incoherent speech. Ha ha! Call it like I see it. I know I'm not the best at this. I'm not trying to be. I'm trying to be the most honest. I'm trying to be the most centered and the most common sense. And the most American I can be. So anyhow, this week's episode is entitled Full Mental. Brandon, keeping with that movie theme, folks. So we're looking here at Newsmax. They're sort of middle of the road, I guess. I don't know. I don't really care, man. I checked their shit and it comes back true. Majority say President Biden oversold on promises to the point of lying just to get elected. And he did. I don't understand how that's even open for debate. I mean, he was going to be a moderate who was going to bridge the gap between the right and the left, and he was going to unify us. And he's done none of that. He hasn't built back better. It's a disaster. As we're going to see, it's just a freaking disaster out there right now. And it's his policies. These are not holdovers from Trump. You know, every day I read things where people point out what Biden did, where Biden's going wrong. And the only response is blah, 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 Trump, blah, 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 Trump. You know, and I used to think, it's kind of embarrassing at first, we were going to have Hillary Clinton or Trump, and then we ended up with Trump. And, it was a little bit like, hey, on the world stage, we're electing a reality TV show personality who loves to exaggerate. But that embarrassment factor has been dwarfed by Biden. He is a stone cold fucking embarrassment. He's worried more right now about the Ukraine than he is about America. And he's not really doing anything about Ukraine, and he's not calling to task. Trump wanted to take us out of NATO because we're sworn to protect these countries, and these countries don't want to help. Right now, Germany isn't going to help in the battle against Ukraine. Germany wants to work with Russia. Okay? Go figure that. In people's lifetime, people who are still alive today, they saw a day when Germany invaded Russia. World War II. Look it up. Operation Barbarossa. And we've come a long way now. And now we're going back into this crazy period of time where people believe they could trust Russia? Wow. Especially Germany. Wow. But that's what's going on there. Babylon, two of my favorites, Babylon Bee and Bronco, have been really busy this week. The Bee here. Biden considers starting World War III to distract from domestic failures. Where's that a lie? Where is that a stretching of the truth? Okay, maybe he's not trying to start World War III, perhaps, But, yeah. He's using the Ukraine to distract. We're going to see some stuff that he's trying to distract us from. The media is playing right along. That's the part that just burns me up. I mean, if Biden was doing a good job and the mainstream media was triumphing, talking about Biden's triumphs, great, because his triumphs are our triumphs to some degree. Depends on how you feel about certain subjects. But let's talk overall. If Brandon here was doing a great job, America would be in a good place. We were in a good place under Trump. You might not have liked everything he said. You might not have liked everything he did. You might not have liked every single piece of legislation or, whatever. But come on. All right? We weren't struggling. We weren't watching turkey bacon go up 30% under Trump. This is the Democrats have really created a problem. I mean, hell, in California, bacon is becoming scarce because we want to give the pigs a few more feet of room. It's not going to change anything. There's still a pig that's being raised for food. But yeah, his handling of the Ukraine has been abysmal to the point where even the Ukrainian president is talking smack on this guy. We'll switch gears really quick. This is one of the stupidest things I've seen. San Jose is going to make gun owners get insurance. I don't see how that doesn't infringe on the Second Amendment. And worse still, this penalizes poor people. Poor people who can't afford the annual fee that they're going to charge, plus the $30 to $50 a month that it's going to cost for this liability insurance, right? Poor people are going to get hit with higher rates. You know that. So all of a sudden, you're going to have to choose between protecting your family or $50 a month. A month. Okay? That's what, $600 a year that you're going to have to spend to cover the cost of criminals. Criminals. Okay? Criminals. That's the point. That's why this is ridiculous. You are penalizing legitimate gun owners for the actions of illegitimate gun criminals. Okay? Moving on. This is stupid. We got all, oh boy, wow. Minnie Mouse has a blue pantsuit. Oh, culture and, M&Ms. I don't give a shit about this. This is the kind of stuff that's fucking pointless and meaningless. It serves as a distraction. And I just find it funny. Whatever. They're going to do what they're going to do. Disney lost me ages ago when they used to put videotapes into their vaults. And it created a market where parents who wanted a copy of a movie were paying exorbitant fees. I saw it. I worked at a lot of video stores. I saw people come in and exchange cash for video copies. We didn't sell ours because we couldn't replace them and we had to have them for rental. But Disney's just a Disney scum to me. Biden's Justice Department will investigate parents concerned with CRT, but do nothing about illegal immigrants boarding planes with arrest warrants. Yeah, this is just a prelude to what we're coming up to be talking about. This kind of censorship is very reminiscent of Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia. It's plain as day. So, what has our exalted idiot of a leader been doing? Well, he has been flying illegal aliens around the country in the dead of night since he took office. These people came across the border illegally. They were picked up. They were given a piece of paper saying that they would appear for their amnesty. Background checks, not performed, not paid attention to. Vaccinations, no, you don't have to be vaccinated. We're going to force our citizens to be vaccinated, but we're not going to force illegal immigrants that come into our country to be vaccinated. These people have no right to be here. And we're giving them plane rides to different parts of the country. We're scattering these people. Some of them have criminal records. Some of them are involved in trafficking. Some of them are just good, honest people looking for a day's pay for a day's work. Okay? But those are the people that we should keep. But we need to be vetting people, but we're not. We're flying them around with secrets, lies, and cries of racism. Biden covers up huge influx of illegal migrants. And that's what they do. When we try to bring up the fact, hey, man, you're not even checking their backgrounds. You're not making them get vaccinated. We're called racist. Because that's the only card they have. They can't fight us on common sense. Just racist rhetoric. Quick, we need to secure the border. Pelosi 2022. Not that border, you idiot. Yeah. This is supposed to be satirical, but that's exactly what's happening. We're thinking of sending troops or arms or some form of aid. We know how that ends. Look up Vietnam. And but they don't want to do anything about the U.S. border. And again, this goes back to a simple fact. The Democrats and people in power, Republicans included, elite people, love to hire illegal aliens to do their work because they get shit on them. Literally and figuratively. They can abuse them mentally, physically, sexually. And there's nothing they can do because they have no recourse. An illegal immigrant can't go to the Department of Labor. They can't go to the police. And even if they can, they're afraid to. So yeah, that's why they love hiring them. More Americans are dying from fentanyl than they are COVID. Not entirely true. Men 18 to 45 are. But anyhow, it's coming across the border. If people can just walk across the border, how hard do you think it is to get the drugs across? If we are flooded with fentanyl, we are going to see a pandemic of opiate deaths. Okay? We already have it happening. Frick, there was some kid somewhere, he was 13, he died of an overdose, and they found something like 100 bags of fentanyl at his house. The fuck is a 13-year-old doing with that much fentanyl? Or any fentanyl? This is a failure of liberal, far-left policies that handcuff police, parents, teachers, everybody. Everybody. You gotta listen up, y'all. Everybody who could make a difference in this country is being handcuffed when it comes to things like fentanyl. Stupid. Charlie Kirk brings up unvaccinated illegal alien terrorists being allowed into the United States, but unvaccinated truckers trying to restock our empty shelves aren't. Yeah, that's what's happening. Canada is having a trucker convoy, a trucker revolt right now. Okay? People are out there trying to make things better, and they're being hampered with these bullshit COVID policies. Look, I'm vaccinated. Okay? I don't care what you do. If you want to be vaccinated, if you want to be triple vaccinated, if you want to get a vaccine every single freaking day of your life, I don't care. That's not my business. Your health is your decision. That's what I believe in. I don't believe in mandates. If the vaccine stopped the virus dead in its tracks, then I'd be for it. I would say we need to get vaccinated. And I've said it before. I've made a whole video about that. But the truth of the matter is it's not stopping the spread. So I don't see how mandates are warranted. That's my opinion. Okay? If you're going to make your decisions based on my opinion, please look it up. Please do the research. Don't just listen to people like Joe Rogan. Don't just listen to Barbara Ferrer, the fake doctor of LA. Don't just listen to Fauci, another fake doctor, a virologist. A guy whose career is spent studying the development and spread of disease. Not how we fight it. Not how we overcome it. No. How it spreads. Traveler having trouble finding luggage among scores of illegal immigrants on baggage claim carousel. Told you the bee's been busy, man. Right there, Democrat senator amidst Pelosi's stock trading sways her legislative judgment. That's a big, big red flag for me. Lobbyists, corporate sponsorship of politicians, it's what's gotten us into a lot of messes. We are not being represented. Those with money are being represented. They're getting what they want. And then when they need to go and find a loophole, they have the money to find the loophole. The rest of us just have to live with these shitty decisions. So, ages ago, I struggled with drugs and alcohol. I was in a very dark place where life and death didn't mean very much to me. And there were three groups: Pink Floyd, R.E.M., and Neil Young. And those three were the bands that I credit with keeping me alive. When Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait and raped and pillaged, figuratively and literally, that country, we sent troops to kick Saddam out of Kuwait. Unfortunately, Neil Young came out against that. And I had to stop being a fan. I couldn't listen anymore. I'm a soldier. I'll fight a war. I don't want to. I don't think war is the answer at all. But sometimes it is the only answer. And in terms of Saddam's invasion of Kuwait, that was the only answer. We had to kick him out. But anyhow, now Neil Young wants Spotify to take Joe Rogan off. And we know how that turned out. Spotify pulled his music. He said, me or Rogan. Like I said earlier, Don't listen to my advice blindly. Don't listen to Rogan or Rogan's guests blindly. If they bring something up, look it up. To do this bit that I'm doing right now, I had to research things. I had to learn about GMOs. I had to learn about insulin. I had to learn about GMOs in COVID vaccines, okay? I had to do research. Didn't take me very long, okay? I'm not an expert, but I read what experts said. So this is the same Neil Young who in 2015 released an album called The Monsanto Years. Okay, Monsanto made Roundup. Okay, Roundup has been found to cause some cancer. There's open debate on it, but they have been fined and they are paying out. But his rhetoric, his anti-GMO rhetoric, helped fuel the narrative that made it easy to spread fear and distrust about the vaccines because the vaccines use GMO processes, okay? That's what they do. A collective amnesia has set amongst progressives regarding the left's past pandemic regarding the left's past pandering to the anti-biotech movement. Reactionary leftism, especially around biotech, was politically correct and convenient for progressives. Now it's not. Now they want to support the vaccines blindly. Okay, fine. It's hypocritical. That's what it is. Monsanto, see, they did Roundup, but they also produce GMO, cotton, soy, other things, right? Neil Young embraces GMOs to prolong his life, but tries to block benefits for others. So what was this about? This was written back in 2015. So what was this about? Well, so Monsanto, what is he saying here? Monsanto, let our farmers grow what they want. Right, okay. Monsanto wasn't controlling that. Genetically engineered crops have been engineered to grow better, okay? There's a lot of things that can be done, but one of the primary things that it does is it increases crop yields. We have starving people in our country and around the world. GMO helps that, and it increases their profits. So they're not doing this against their will. He's saying that Monsanto is forcing farmers to grow GMO crops. Misinformation. Disinformation. Misinformation, mistake. Disinformation is on purpose. Every scientific oversight organization agrees that GMOs are safe and environmentally friendly. Denying the evidence is no better than paranoia. Yeah. And remember, GMO keeps you and millions of other diabetics alive every day. What do they mean by that? Well, first let's look at some of the things that GMO foods do here. More nutritious, tastier, disease, drought resistant, less use of pesticides, increased supply of food with longer shelf lives, reduced costs, faster growing plants and animals. Okay? Yeah, that's what it does. We figure out what causes something, then we remove that, and then we grow it with altered DNA. Yeah. See? You figure out what apple tree grows really strong and vibrant, and then you graft your tasty fruit branch onto there, and then all the fruit is the tasty fruit, but the trunk is good and strong and resistant. That's a form of GMO. What farmers have been doing, grafting, for years. So anyhow, back to that comment about diabetics. So Neil Young suffers from type 1 diabetes. By 1951, as you could see, his health had deteriorated. He was put on insulin. Insulin, genetically modified. We take the human insulin gene, we put it into a bacteria. As the bacteria grows, it grows more and more of that human insulin. That's then harvested. See, because we used to get it out of the pancreas of cows and pigs that had been slaughtered, okay? That was a much more difficult process, and you need dead animals for that, right? So we learned how to make it by growing it in a bacteria. 40 years ago, it was very controversial, but it got FDA approval. That's how we make insulin nowadays. GMO in it, in bacteria. And so he's against GMOs that save his life. So he's hypocritical and spreading disinformation. That is really wild, you know? You can make your own insulin, believe it or not, but I'm not going to get into that. But we need more of it, not less of it. But people, such in Europe and stuff, have bought into the hysteria over GMO, and they ban it, and they ban the research. So there are diabetics out there who can't get insulin and end up dying because of people like Neil Young. And now he wants Joe Rogan pulled off of Spotify for spreading disinformation about COVID, saying things like maybe we're suffering from mass hysteria. Maybe young people don't really need the vaccine. Maybe they don't need to take the risk. And I'm for that. I mean, my daughter's young, and she wanted to get the vaccine so we could go to concerts, but told her there was a risk. You know, we don't really know. And she went ahead and did it. But it was her decision. And I back it. I have it too. God, I hope there aren't any long-term effects. I don't really think there are because, personally, I just don't see how it's going to affect us long-term. The fact that it wears off and stuff like that, you know. But we get to the COVIDs vaccines now. They're made with genetic engineering. The very same thing that Neil Young spoke out against is the same thing he is now protecting by threatening to pull his music. Does that make any sense to any of you? He's a hypocrite who did no research. Report, strong spike in Google searches for who is Neil Young. Man, it really saddens me that this is where he is now. Here he is, Stephen Colbert making fun of him with some GMO corn. And of course, Neil Young quotes overzealous anti-GMO regulations in the European Union as if that was scientific proof. You see, it's disinformation that he boycotted Spotify over disinformation while promoting his own disinformation. How does that make any sense? How should we take him seriously when there's such a glaring hypocrisy to him? Joni Mitchell, who oddly enough looks like Neil Young now, she stands in solidarity. Oh, that's good. So now, you know, Pave Paradise, put up a parking lot, is now for censorship. What the fuck is going on here? You know, Rogan supposedly got in trouble for talking about mass hysteria, right? But and there's people out there who try to say that mass hysteria doesn't exist, and we're seeing it. We're seeing people trip over themselves to now force Spotify to censor Joe Rogan over him bringing up valid points. Look, if you're a young person, you hear Joe Rogan say, don't take the vaccine, maybe you should look at it a little bit more in depth. I'm not trying to excuse Rogan. I've known Joe Rogan as a fan way back into the news radio days. Also on his show Hardball, UFC announcer, you know, but, you know, I don't listen to his podcast. I don't. I don't follow what Rogan says. I don't follow what Trump says. I follow what logic and common sense says. Yoko Ono has threatened to have her music added to Spotify unless Joe Rogan is removed. There's a lot of these, but I chose this one as the best because I love Yoko Ono as a person, John Lennon's wife. I respect her, but her music is horrible. Biden seen looking at paint swatches to choose next Supreme Court justice. If a black woman becomes the next Supreme Court justice, we should all cheer and say, wow, she earned it. But this motherfucker, in exchange for votes in states that he needed to win, made a promise that it was going to be a black woman, therefore discrediting that black woman. That's the problem with affirmative action in my eyes, okay? Is that when you say that it has to be a black woman, you're not saying that it's a qualified candidate. It's an insidious sort of racism Because you're basically saying to the country, I'm appointing this woman simply because she's black. Look, appoint a black woman. Fine, I got no problem with that. I think everybody should be represented. I have no problem with that. I ain't afraid of that. What I'm afraid of is people who claim to be anti-racist doing things with these hints of racism in them. Tulsi Gabbard, somebody who could have been our president, he should not be choosing it, but based on color. And that's across the board. Look, I applaud it. Unfortunately, the black woman that he's going to choose is probably a far-left California wacko to appease this far-left socialist fucking movement that's out there. Instead, to replace somebody who is known as a centralist. Great. This guy, Breyer, centralist. He was a Democrat, but he was a centralist. He was a moderate. And they're going to make sure that it's a far-left black female. Great. Okay. That's great. It sets a really dangerous precedent because, again, how does this not equate to simply putting up a sign, whites only? It's the same thing. Biden reminds everyone could be everyone that black justices can be just as smart as rich ones. Yeah, I think he meant white ones, but whatever. The bee, busy as always. We're going to touch on this really quick here. I really have a problem with the transgender females competing against females. It's not fair. And in this story, they feel uncomfortable because dude's still got a penis, okay? He wants to be a girl, but he's not a girl, physically. So he is changing in front of them. He has a crush on one of the fellow swimmers. That makes it awkward, okay? So I wanted to find out where the solution is. So I found a Canadian think tank, okay? Their research shows that, go ahead and read this for a second, that the so-called testosterone suppressants really don't make a big difference, okay? 5%. These are people who spent all of their life up until the point they decided to transition as a man. So they were strong like a man. They were built like a man. They had developed as a man. But this study then points out something. And, very clearly right there. Make the male category open. Boom, problem solved. If you want to be a female, okay, you can be a female, and you can compete against males in the open category. You will not get an advantage by switching over to the female category. You will stay in the open category. So therefore, only true trans people will do it because they won't be gaining an advantage. They can't use it as a form of cheating. So therefore, it ends all speculation. It ends all the debate. They compete in an open category. From now on, all men's category should be open category. Soccer, weightlifting, swimming, fencing, curling. I don't give a shit what it is. From now on, it's open and it's female. Boom, problem solved. Right there, Canadian think tank. That's it. Little research. Boom. There it is. It's not fair, and here's how to solve it. We're going to skip this. Gascon's up for recall now. People, if you live in LA, sign the damn petition. Look for it online. Do whatever you have to do, but we got to get this guy out of there. Because this is just ridiculous. These people in California are trying to decriminalize date rape drugs. They're trying to provide sanctuary state status to child molesters, okay? These bills were introduced and voted down, and they're trying again. Because somewhere in here, but seem to have lost it, right now here in California, we have a 27-year-old trans female in solitary in a girls' juvenile facility. Because Gascon didn't charge this person as an adult for sexually assaulting a 10-year-old. They will be out in 2 years. 2 years, because that's what it would have been if they were charged as a juvenile, blah, 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 blah. They're letting sexual predators out of jail as fast as they possibly can. Who in the fuck is voting for this? Who thinks that this is a good idea? This piece, really quick, was just about a sheriff brought up a really good point that jails are not mental health facilities. We need mental health facilities. We need the power to put people in them. I'm sorry, but that's what we need to do. We're going to skip these electric batteries. We're skipping the single-use tobacco. Yeah. Okay. Biden approval rating up after being mean to journalists, just like real president. Oh, man. The bee busy. Ukraine invites Kyle Rittenhouse to guard their border. I told you, the bee's been busy this week, man. Psaki recommends Ukrainians just take a kickboxing class and have a margarita. That's the glib shit that we're getting out of these people. You do realize that this is what it was like when you lived under a king and you were a peasant, okay? The peasant could literally just laugh at your problems. He didn't give a shit. They don't give a shit. There you go. We're trying to scold China for China genocide, and they say, "Whoa, what's the big deal? You have voter ID." And we're still sending people to Beijing. Go to Beijing and compete and televise it and all that. But basically, I'm just making a list, and if you go over there and support the Beijing Olympics, you're dead to me. All right, skip that. They're telling people to take boosters that were made before these variants existed. So what's that going to boost? Profits, Russ. And it seems that way. I mean, I do have one of the reasons why they got rid of antibody therapy caused an uproar on the right. But the truth of the matter is that the antibody therapy that worked really well against Delta doesn't seem to recognize Omicron. It just doesn't. It does for scientific studies and facts, and that's why we're not using the antibodies anymore, okay? But does that go for the vaccines? We're not allowed to discuss these things. We're not allowed to probe these things. So, we may never know. But, I mean, what's the point of getting a booster shot if it's not going to work? Oh, wow, it helps with hospitalization. Okay, maybe. Yeah, this refers to Jen Psaki's remedy of take 2 margaritas and call me in the morning. That's what they think. They are basically saying, yes, America is having problems, so get drunk and you won't think about it. Good message. This is my favorite of the week. This is a very, very dramatic cartoon, probably the best Bronco has ever done. And that's what we see. Okay? The police are in the middle between these left-wing politics and crime. They're trying to hold it back, but the politicians are handcuffing them. And we're seeing rising crime rates. And you can make all the excuses and you could bring up, oh, well, property crime's down. Yeah, well, if property crime's down, but murder and rape's up, are you winning? This is stuff that's plain as day. This is not a matter of opinion, okay? This is not somebody who voted for Trump saying, oh, look how bad the Democrats are. You tell me where this is wrong. You tell me where this is wrong. It was not Republicans who were demonizing the police, okay? It was not Republicans who were cheering on the rioting and the protests that were really unfounded, okay? If a criminal resists arrest and ends up dead, the police officer should be disciplined, probably maybe fired. But to burn down cities over it? Nah. Let's save that for when innocent people are being mistreated. When innocent people who were just minding their own business. Oh, but wait a minute. That would be having to throw a spotlight on places like Chicago where gangs are just shooting at each other to the point where, like, little girls are getting hit in the back of the head. More kids died in Chicago in 1 year than died of COVID in the entire United States. Why don't you focus in on that a little bit more? Why don't you stop trying to figure out how to let criminals and predators out of jail and figuring out how we could better treat them? Why don't we figure out what we can do so that, like, drunk, crazy people aren't just roaming the streets like fucking zombies? This is the full mental Brandon that's going on, man. Okay? Look around. Democrats are a political group that have an ideology. Okay? They're not your family. They're not your favorite football team. All right? If you really don't like what the Republicans stand for, then you got to look somewhere else. That's me. Okay? That's me and people like me. I'm just one dude. I don't have a lot of resources. I can't realistically start a political party, but yet here I am. Here I am trying to pull people back to the center. So maybe you have to vote for a moderate Republican. But it's certainly going to end up with better results than what we're seeing now. The left-wing way of doing things has been on display now, full on, for about a decade. And look what it's resulted in. Everything's more expensive, okay? The streets are not safe, okay? The streets are completely unpredictable now. And those are their policies. So while we can cheer that we have a transgender general, which is great, how does that rate to the average food bills going up, gasoline going up, the cost of living across the board going up? And then when we try to bring it up, we're silenced by the very platforms that should be allowing our voices to be heard, for people to take in our words and think about them and ponder them and research them and make better decisions. That's all I'm asking for. I don't give a shit where it comes from. I support a person like Tulsi Gabbard. I do. She has good ideas. Maybe we need to return to that. Voting for good ideas, not just your favorite team. Copious, doubly out.